everybody. Welcome to the October 8th, 2025 Garrison Board of Education regular workshop meeting. Dusty, will you please call the roll?
Jocelyn Apicella.
Here.
Eric Arnold.
Here.
Jennifer Harrington-Wilson.
Here.
Dan Jasnow.
Here.
Peter Lesser.
Excused.
Ken Schott.
Here.
Sarah Tormey.
Excused. Pledge allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, moving on to the agenda or agenda changes. Do we have any agenda changes for tonight?
I do have one. First one ever. So we can add, right? I would like to add finance committee.
Okay. Dusty, you got that one? Where do we want to put that? Okay. Great. All right. Any other agenda changes? Be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Garrison Union Free School District hereby accepts the agenda as amended. May I have a motion?
Motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? All right. Moving on.
Yes, thank you. Good evening, everybody in the community, Board of Education. It's a very special time of year where we get to honor our board members, and this evening I want to take a moment to thank the Garrison Board of Education members for their tireless and unwavering support for our students, for our staff, for our community, and for me personally as the superintendent. They say that exemplary schools are built on the foundation of exemplary boards. And here in Garrison, we are fortunate that has a board that always puts kids first, understands the critical importance of their role, and leads with heart, wisdom, empathy, and integrity. Working with this board has truly been one of the highlights of my career. And I often think back to our retreats, those long, thoughtful conversations about innovative teaching practices, the vital role of social emotional wellness. Those moments weren't just productive, they were deeply inspiring. They reminded me that this board isn't simply a governance team, it's a group of passionate, insightful individuals who really care profoundly about our children here in Garrison and the future of our education. So I want to thank you on behalf of the staff for your leadership, your partnership, and your belief in what's possible. You make Garrison a place where extraordinary isn't just a goal, it's our standard. And at this time, I'd like to welcome Alex Lincoln, who wants to present and say a few words on behalf of our student body for this Board of Education. Axel, would you mind coming up?
Yep.
All right.
Good evening. My name is Axel Lincoln, as hopefully some of you know. I am the Vice President of our student government. I want to recognize our board members who play such an important role in shaping our school community. Well, while we may not always see behind the scenes work of a school board member, we definitely can see the impact that all you make on our school community, from helping provide better resources in our classrooms to supporting programs that allow us to explore our passions. Your decisions help create an environment where we can learn and grow. Your dedication to our education and your commitment for making our school better does not go unnoticed. We are grateful for your support in improving initiatives like the Biodigester, our environmental education program, our social emotional learning programs, our school lunch program. Thank you for believing in our school and supporting our teachers and staff. We are grateful for your service and your leadership for our school community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now we're actually going to present a small certificate, so if we could, do you want to say the name or you want me to?
Yep, all right. Dan Jasnow.
Board President.
Board President. Sarah Tormey, Board Vice President.
We'll get into it.
She's so bumpy.
Jocelyn Apicella. Eric Arnold. Jennifer Harrington Wilson.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. And of course, can't forget about him, Ketchup.
Axel, thank you so much, and let's give a round of applause for our wonderful board. Don't have to.
Thank you, and on behalf of the board, thank you, Axel, for coming. It's great, the best part of this job is to meet the students in this school, so thank you for being here.
He's hungry, yeah.
Moving on to our superintendent's report.
Thank you. That's a fun touch. Okay, I'm going to try to make it brief this evening, but Axel gave me a great intro. I will tell you that our biodigester, which he thanked the board for, and we affectionately named Seymour, is up and running, and part of our environmental education curriculum. It uses, just for those who don't know, what it does is it uses a series of processes using aerobic digestion, which our students learned about last year, and it breaks down food waste. And now that we have a lunch program, another thing that Axel thanks his board's hard work for is it's actually something that we are digesting food waste now and not putting it in plastic bags and landfills. So just to give the community a sense, we have averaged, when we started using the biodigester for the past 2 weeks, we're averaging per week 131.9 pounds of food waste not going into plastic bags and into landfills. The other thing is, and I want to thank our environmental educator, Christopher Cola, and Mike McDonald for really working hard to kind of make sure that this is not just a thing, but part of our curriculum and part of our learning process. And Ms. Bucola is working on the formation of a green team that will be responsible to monitor and maintain the biodigester and ensure that this is a critical component of what we do here. Not only do we learn about environmental education, we want to also be good stewards of the environment and lead by an example, and our students will do that. So Seymour is up and running. If anybody wants to come for a visit and visit with Seymour, I promise they do not bite.
Do we have to bring like a pound of unused food?
No, we've got plenty of our kids' food that our kids don't finish, but if you'd like to contribute to Seymour, we're happy to take particular items of food waste. Just a little bit of update. I talked about last time about our Empowered Classroom, which is our fellowship and our initiative where 8 of our brave staff members are working with Mr. McDonald and myself to begin to look about what next generation and innovative learning could look like in their classrooms. We had our first session already. We're going to have our next session next week. And I will tell you that the staff feedback was overwhelmingly positive. We're going to talk a little bit more about it, but I just want to give everybody, they say a picture is worth 1,000 words, but looking at our staff engaging deeply about what is deep learning, deep thinking, classroom design, and we just scratched the surface with 3 of our 7 pillars. We're going to go into the rest of our pillars next week, and our teachers will then be working on focusing in on some of the components of their teaching that they want to improve, and we're going to support them in that. So we're really excited about it. At some point we will do a board presentation and community presentation to talk about the outcome of this really exciting initiative. I want to thank the PTA, GSAF. I want to thank Ms. Clark and our 8th grade fundraisers. We had a pretty busy weekend on the 26th, and then again on the 28th. We had a movie night that was incredibly well attended. It was the first of its kind. I want to thank Mike Onito, Allison for all of her work on there. I unfortunately was in Kansas City. I would have rather been here in this night, but I heard it was incredible. Our students talked about it. In our Fall Fest, again, another great event. And the 8th graders and Ms. Clark were able to raise some money for the 8th grade activity fund. So a great night was had by all. We hope to capitalize on really a great climate and working with GSEF and PTA in the future. So thank you to all of those folks that made that really incredible weekend happen. Joe and I want to, every other month, we're going to give the community an update on what's going on with capital projects. We talk about these things and it seems like nothing happens, but we're going to break it down by phase. So I want to talk a little bit about phase one. Remember, phase one was one of the projects is completed. The other is the gym roof, which we were waiting for some stuff. I'll let Joe talk about it. That had to do with grant funding or electric water heater. We're finally, and you'll see something in the agenda tonight. So Joe, do you want to just briefly talk a little bit about where we're at phase one with the gym roof replacement project and the electric water heater project?
Yes. So the gym roof replacement project is a project that is going to be split funding, half from the school district and half from the dormitory authority of the state of New York through a CREST grant. So the dormitory authority sent a list of additional items that they want from us in order to be able to make it to the next phase of approval. And once they have that, then likely it will be anywhere between 4 and 6 weeks, and then they would approve it, and then we would start working on that project. And the electric water heater, what we have right now is the grant and everything has been approved. The project went out to bid. It was awarded at a previous board meeting, and the contract with the contractor that was awarded the bid is on the agenda for tonight. And once that is executed, then they can begin work on that project.
Phase two, that is pretty much all the projects we talked about in this last budget cycle that are in this year's budget. That is the retaining walls, the stairs and front sidewalks and curbing, as well as the roof over the main office and 1908 section. None of these projects require grant funding, so unlike the gym roof project. So Joe, do you want to talk a little bit about briefly where we're at with these projects?
So we have a package of design submission documents. So the design is basically complete, and then together with it is a approval package that we put towards it. So we submitted a letter of intent to the SED. There's a project numbers associated with it. With the design submission is some approval submissions from us. So there's some paperwork that Dan has to sign as the board president that I'm going to review, and then we'll be able to get that out of here next week, and then that will start the review process at the state.
And just to remind everybody in the community that if everything goes according to our schedule, this work on these projects would begin in July, so this summer coming up after this school year is closed out. And phase three, I'll talk about. Phase three is the exploration of an immersive forest classroom. We did select 3 community members. Thank you for all the community members that are willing to. It was so nice to have so many people want to be on this committee. We did select 3. We notified those folks, notified the folks. We'll keep them involved as best that we can. Who are on the committee. We would have picked everybody, but this committee would have been huge. We have staff members that are on it. We're gathering a few kids. We've already identified the staff members. We're gathering a few kids, and we have our first meeting next week with the architect. We did have a visit to the forest where three community members came out, and we looked at the space. So we're excited that we're on task right now with our committee to begin next week. So thank you to everybody. This is certainly one that we will update the community frequently on our progress of our work. And lastly, I just want to talk about a few things that are happening. Just a quick reminder, on 10/10, we have our countywide early dismissal. That's incorrect up there. It's actually a 3 o'clock dismissal, so just families, and we sent an update out today. Expect your children to be home 15 minutes early, and please pick up your children 15 minutes early. And for pre-K, you have a normal dismissal, so that nothing changes. You pick up your kids at the normal time. On the 13th, schools are closed for Columbus and Indigenous Peoples Day, our board meeting on the 22nd. We have our first school dance coming up on the 24th, is our middle school dance. Those are a hoot, and I can't wait to see everybody's moves, really. And on the 27th through the 31st, we have our Drop Everything and Read, which is a huge event where our families come in, and we have our book fair. So stay tuned for more information on it. And that concludes my superintendent's report. Happy to answer any questions if anybody has any.
Thanks, Greg. Any questions? All right, I will move right into the board president's remarks. And first, just want to thank Axel, Dr. Stowell, Dusty, everybody for the Board Appreciation Week. We obviously don't do any of this alone, and part of the things of what makes it an enjoyable process is that we have such a great team here. It's a pleasure to work with all of you guys, so thank you very much, and thank you especially for these delicious looking treats, and Dusty for feeding us so often and so well.
Dan, on that note,
Yeah.
you mentioned it's a little hard to see, but on the top of your little apple pies is a pie crust medallion with the Gups logo.
Wow.
Right there.
Wow. That is
When Dusty cooks something,
Yeah.
she goes
She needs
big.
a lot, yeah.
Does not skip out. So yes, and thank you, Dusty.
It's
for
really
that.
the reason I keep doing this, because I love Dusty's food. And then just want to echo the thanks to the PTA and the GSEF for the 2 great events, as well as to the Allison and Mike, who were here very late on that movie night. I was able to get to the movie night, which was a lot of fun and a little chaotic, but very fun. Wasn't able to make it to Fall Fest, but I heard great things about it. And so thank you to GSEF and PTA for putting that together. We also, Sarah and I also recently met with the leadership of both PTA and GSEF for, just really sort of a catch up to try and touch base and, make sure that we have open lines of communication. So we had a great meeting, talked a lot about some of the issues that we have talked about as a board. This year, one of our board goals being to increase volunteerism and figure out ways that we can try and connect parents with more of the volunteer opportunities that are available through the board and through GSEF and PTA. So that's sort of just the beginning of a conversation, but we did start that process, and I was glad to be able to connect with that. What's that?
You got right onto those goals.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, thank you for the facilities update. I think those are very helpful updates, especially since we have so many projects going on, and obviously there's a very long tail on a lot of them, and so it's great to be able to sort of have the assistants keeping track of what's going on. So thank you all. Okay, moving on to our board communications. The first is our annual external audit report, which Sarah's not here to express how excited she would be about this moment, but I won't be able to recreate that level of excitement, but we are very excited for this annual audit report. So welcome.
Good evening. Previously, I did meet with the audit committee and we went over a draft of this financial statement, which is required by state education law. Tonight, I'm just going to go over some of the highlights of that meeting and what's contained in the new financial statements. So for the agenda, we're going to go over the required communication to look at the 2025 revenues and expenditures compared to the budget for the general fund. And we're going to have a schedule of general fund revenues, a 5-year revenue history, major expenditures, and a 5-year expenditure history, 5-year history of the general fund balance, other fund balances of the other funds, and the debt service schedule. Okay, the overview of required communications responsibility of management and those charged with governance that we reward, selecting and implementing appropriate accounting policies, which you did, fairly present the financial statements in accordance with U.S. GAAP, establish and maintain effective internal controls over financial reporting, which you did. We issue what's known as a letter to those charged with governance, a management letter. Potentially, you could have a material weakness, a significant deficiency, or a control deficiency. There were no material weaknesses or significant deficiencies. There are a few minor control deficiencies, which we put in the letter for informational purposes. Compliance with laws, regulations, and provisions of contracts and agreements, and providing all financial records and related information to the auditors, and setting the proper tone at the top. I will say that the audit went very well. There were a team of 4 people here. Joe and Genevieve provide all the information we requested. There were no issues during the audit, and we went very smoothly. Okay, the overview. Okay. The timeline, as I mentioned, we did a preliminary audit on June 23rd where we come into the district, we test the controls, the cash receipts, cash disbursements, claims, payroll. There were no findings there. The actual audit took place the week of July 14th to the 18th, and was completed in September. The independent auditors report, I received the representation notice, so that will be issued tomorrow. The yellow book report on compliance. There was another report issued, the extra classroom activities report, and as I mentioned, the required communication to those charged with governance, which is the management letter. And now we're supposed to communicate any fraud or illegal acts, as we noted. There were none noted. We encountered no significant difficulties in the conduct of the audit. There were no uncorrected misstatements, no disagreements with management, and we issued what's known as an unmodified opinion, also a clean opinion. It's the best opinion we received. Okay. Okay, this is a summary of the general fund revenues and expenditures compared to the budget. Going left to right, you have the original budget, the final budget, the actual results, the encumbrances, which are applicable to the expenditures, and the variance with the final budget. So the original budget for the revenues of $12,466,000, it was increased slightly to $12,507,000, and the actual came in at $13,650,000, generating a positive budgetary variance of $1,142,000. On the expenditure side, the original budget was $13,117,000. Again, it was increased slightly to $13,170,000. And the expenditures came in at $12,099,000. There are encumbrances of $68,161. Encumbrances are basically purchase orders, meaning goods and services that the district had ordered prior to June 30th, for which you haven't received as of June 30th. The money gets encumbered and it gets rolled over into the 25-26 budget. On the expenditure side, you generated a positive budgetary variance of a little over $1 million. The excess deficiency of revenues over expenditures for operations was $1,550,000. The other financing sources, which transfers out to the other funds, primarily the Special Aid Fund, the Capital Projects Fund, was $350,000. So the net change in fund balance was $1,200,000. And if you add that to the fund balance at the beginning of the year, $5,451,000, you end the year with a total fund balance of $6,651,000. If you look at the original budget column, and the first number up from the bottom, the fund balance at the beginning of the year, that $911,000, included in that is $8,287 of prior year encumbrances from 24-25. In addition to that, there's $902,000 of monies that you appropriated from the 2024 budget, or unassigned fund balance, I should say, to balance the 24-25 budget, which means that if the revenues had come in exactly as budgeted, and the expenditures came in exactly as budgeted, you would have utilized or absorbed 900,000 of your fund balance. But in reality, you generated a surplus of 1,200,000, thereby generating a positive budgetary variance of $2,145,000. Okay, these are some of the major general fund revenues. The property tax, STAR, school tax relief, the interest and penalties, state school tuition, the use of money in property, the interest income, you had a positive surplus of 151,000. State aid, you had a surplus of 278,000, and miscellaneous and various categories, mostly refunded prior year's expenses and BOCES expenditures. We had a positive variance of almost 700,000. The actual revenues are up about 80,000 from the prior year, less than 1%. This is just a 5-year revenue history for the general fund. I'm not going to go through this. Basically, everybody has this information on the district's website, but overall, the revenues are fairly consistent year to year. Okay. These are some of the general fund major expenditures. The general government support generated a positive variance of 232,000. The instruction function was a positive variance of 514,000. Transportation 141,000. And the employee benefits 113,000, mostly in the health insurance. The actual results came in 748,000, greater than the prior year, which is about 6.4%. And in the column all the way to the right, the 2004 expenditures, so you can see the difference between the 11,701,000 and the 12,450,000, and realize the changes in credit. This is the general fund for 5-year expenditure history. Again, this information is basically just to review, nothing to discuss there. This is the 5-year history of the general fund balance. We're primarily going to focus on 2025. The top portion of the page are all the reserves, known as restricted fund balance. These are money set aside either by statute or by resolution adopted by the board. So you put aside $100,000 for the tax certiorari claims. That was up slightly from the prior year. The employees' retirement system, basically there's just interest added to that. That's the $537,000. And the TRS, the teachers' retirement system, is at $122,000. That was up from $60,000 from the prior year. The debt service reserve, $111,000. In addition, you're taking $100,000 out of the debt service reserve to utilize in the 25-26 budget. The unemployment benefits is $96,000. Again, not a material increase. The future capital projects went up slightly to $72,000. And the employee benefit accrued liability, which are compensated absences, went up slightly to $77,000. The total restricted is pretty much comparable to the prior years. If you look at 2021, it was $2.4 million, and it was 1.8, 1.8, 1.8, now it's 1.9. So there hasn't been drastic changes in the overall fund balance. Again, we discussed the purchases in order, the encumbrances, and the subsequent year's expenditures. So at the end of 2025, you're utilizing $1,445,000 of the fund balance to balance the 25-26 budget. And that's up from the prior year by approximately $540,000. The unassigned fund balance is $3,220,000, and the total fund balance is $6,651,000. The unassigned fund balance, as compared to the subsequent year budget, is 21.9%, and the total fund balance as a percentage of the 26 budget is 45%. Any question? The These are the other governmental funds within the district. You have your capital projects fund, which generated a surplus. You had revenues of $355,000, expenditures of $104. Previously saw some of the capital projects ongoing. The school lunch fund is basically new. I think it was starting in 26, 25, 26 year, correct? The special purpose fund, where you have all your trusts and various scholarship programs, and those are the total funds. They all have a positive variance, and the lunch fund will hopefully generate a positive variance in the next year. This is your outstanding debt service. You have general obligation bonds issued. The original amount was $8,305,000. The outstanding balance at the end of the year is $7,080,000. And below that is a schedule of the payments. It's increments of 5 years and then multiples of 5 years. We're now to pay off the $7,080,000. If you look at the amount due in 2026, the $485,000 of principal and $224,000 of interest, that's up to $709,000, and that's approximately 4.8% of the 25-26 budget. And the general rule is if your total debt service expenditures are less than 6% of your appropriations, that is an indication you're managing your debt well. In this particular case, that's what's happening. And that's it. If there are any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Great, thank you very much. Appreciate the presentation and the thoroughness. So I think you had said there were no material or significant deficiencies. Is that correct? Great. And I think so overall, I mean, I really just want to thank Joe and Genevieve for I think what's clearly an excellent audit report. It seems like the district as a whole is in, I would say, seems to be fairly good financial position from a non-accountant's point of view.
Yes, it is.
Great. Thank you very much. Are there any issues you're seeing, in your work, sort of across multiple districts, issues on the horizon with respect to the, state budget or interest rate decrease? Any other issues like that you are?
Those are exactly two of the issues we've been discussing. The federal aid, who knows what's going to happen in terms of giving the state money? Is the state going to be able to make it up? Are they going to cut back on the amounts that they distribute to the school districts? There's no indication yet. There's what's known as a SAMS report, which I think it comes out monthly, which you could view and maybe get some indication of what's going on. Obviously, everybody listens to the news. There's one interest rate cut earlier in the year. There's supposed to be 2 more coming at least. Whether they're going to be, a quarter of a basis point or eighth of a basis point, nobody knows. And interest income will certainly go down, depending upon when they occur and how much they are. Not significantly. One good thing that the district does do is when you put together your budget, you budget your revenues conservatively, which is recommended practice. Reason being, aside from the property taxes, which is the only revenue source you really have control over, you all like to stay within the cap, which is perfectly good. The rest of the revenue sources we discussed, the state aid, the interest, and so forth, you have no idea as to how that's going to come out. And so budgeting conservatively gives you a cushion. The expenditure side of the budget is the only area where you can actually control your expenses.
So other than budgeting conservatively, is there anything else you're recommending to districts to
The only thing
get
I
ahead
really
of?
recommend is just keep an eye. I mean, the board probably meets monthly or twice a week, and you get monthly treasury reports. I mean, keep an eye on that and see how the flow is going. You could compare the current year to the prior year and see where you're at and plan each month accordingly. There's really nothing else you can do.
Yeah.
People were talking about implementing some systems that are cashless or whatever, but It's really, you know, the students pay for lunch, or is it all free?
It's free.
It's free, okay. Well, that's a good thing.
Yeah. Any other questions? From the audience? All right, great, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. So we'll move on to item 6B, which is accept the annual external audit report. Be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Garrison Union Free School District hereby accepts the annual external audit report for the 2024-2025 school year as presented by PFK O'Connor Davies County. May I have a motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Okay. Moving on to item 7A, public comment. Public comment is intended for members of the community to speak openly and voice concerns. In accordance with policy 1510 of the Garrison Union Free School District, any person wishing to speak shall comply with all provisions of this policy. Comments about specific school personnel or individual students is a violation of board policy. Concerns regarding students or personnel should be discussed privately with the superintendent or appropriate administrator. Comments should be limited to 3 minutes, and speakers are asked to conduct themselves in a respectful manner. The board will listen to comments but will not engage in dialogue. Any necessary follow-up will be noted and provided through the appropriate channel. Members of the public wishing to comment during board meetings are asked to place their name and town of residence on the sign-in sheet. Commenters will be invited to the podium to address the board. Do we have anybody who would like to make a public comment? Well, if you could just come and sign in first.
Sure.
Appreciate that.
Sorry.
No problem. Thank you.
Up here,
Yeah.
sorry, I'm not a big school board attender. But,
You're not alone.
I wasn't planning on coming tonight, however, tonight I'm here to advocate on behalf of my daughter, Skywalker, who's an 8th grade student here. And she participates in the Garrison School and community in many different aspects, in drama and sports, and and contributes to the community as well. She has come to me, and we've addressed this a little bit last year, but she has come and she has asked if she would be allowed to try out for the Haldane basketball team. She plans on attending Haldane schools, and it's our understanding that typically, if we had a high school, she would be allowed to do this through what is called the athletic placement program, which allows 7th and 8th graders to try out for JV or varsity sports. Because we do not have a high school in our district, Garrison is unique. There's only 13 other districts in our state that have this issue. So what we're asking, but there is protocol that has been set forth, and there was actually amendments done in 2017 that would allow for her, or would allow for a pathway for her or for any student under certain restrictions to try out in a district that we contract for our students to attend. In particular, the district that she would like to go to is obviously Haldane. So we're asking your board to consider a request, and we understand that there's work in coming to some type of agreement with Haldane, and to consider going through what those protocols should be and the circumstances in which it would be allowed. However, we're asking that instead of applications before have not progressed, and so we're asking this time that instead of coming from a place where roadblocks are put up, if we could try to come to a place where we're working towards advocating for our student and working with Haldane on this distinct issue to better the students, not on an issue that is, becomes involved in any of the larger issues that are between the two districts themselves.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Is there anyone else that would like to make a comment? All right, we will close public comment on to item 8, acceptance of the minutes. Be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Garrison Union Free School District does hereby accept the minutes of the regular business meeting of September 17th, 2025 as presented. May I have a motion?
Second.
Any questions or comments about the minutes? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Moving on to our committee reports. We will still start with policy. Okay, first committee report is from the policy committee. Jen.
Hi, so, the policy committee met on September 17th from 4 to 5 via Zoom. We discussed 3 items. The policy 73050, which is the timeout and physical restraint policy, which has been reviewed by both our clinical team and our legal counsel, and we recommended that that be brought to the board for a first reading, which is tonight, and that is on the agenda for later. We also reviewed that last year there was a recommendation for boards to consider policies around artificial intelligence, generative AI, and that at that time we tabled it, and we just wanted to just keep it on the table, or tabled on the table. But we just discussed it, that we just wanted to stay aware of that, and the time may come that we might want a policy, but we didn't want to lose sight of that. And then finally, there was some information from our policy service about recommendations in reviewing our school safety plans, specifically around school programming and drills. And based on that guidance and the guidance from Dr. Stoll, there's no changes that are recommended at this time.
Great. Thank you. Any questions for Jen on the policy committee meeting? Okay, moving on to report from Jocelyn on the DEI committee.
Thank you. We met on the 25th of September, and our committee consists of Dr. Stoll, Principal Emily, a couple of us board members, a couple of teachers, and a couple of community members. So it was a good turnout, and we discussed like 3 broad things. One was re-looking at the DEI committee charge. It's very specific to work that we commenced in 2020, and so we were like, should we maybe update it? But we're not going to propose anything as a committee to the board to consider necessarily anytime soon. But it's just something that got us into another conversation about what the committee would really want to do this year. Usually we do a community book read. Do we stick with that? Do we kind of maybe change it a little bit so that we can bring things more into the classroom, perhaps do an assembly that then extends into some kind of classroom experience for students, but at the same time being mindful of teachers and the time that they have to spend with the students. But really, we were asking some core questions, which is like, how do we ensure that all of our students are represented? How do we expose our students to more diverse people and experiences? Are there populations that are underrepresented here in our school community or otherwise? And in that sense, what are the children of Garrison kind of missing exposure to? And can the DEI committee possibly collaborate with the other board committees to make sure that there's an equity lens applied? So we're kind of just growing a little, but I feel like everyone on the committee, and Dr. Stoll, you were there, we all believe that it's part of the culture here. So it's just about maintenance, but also a little bit of elevation whenever we can. So we don't have anything really concrete going on, but it's just like you can't help but still just keep talking about it because it's so relevant. So there's the gist of our meeting. Minutes are up there. We might apply for a GSAP grant.
Great. Thanks, Jocelyn. Any questions?
Eric's taking it off. Just kidding.
All right. Should we move on to the finance committee report from here?
Yes, sounds good. The finance committee met right before this meeting, and we reviewed the audit, which we just went through, and obviously there's some strong numbers there. I think it leaves us in good shape. Obviously, our numbers high, but the fund balance for this district is a little bit of a different ballgame than some other districts. We discussed potential cost drivers for next year. some of the things that you've seen, like the forest, and some things that we'll put in consideration. It's not all bad news, the school lunch is a little better, potentially. We talked about potential revenue challenges, and I think Dan brought this up at the audit, but the state budget could be in for a huge shortfall. So that's something we'll know in January, but something that definitely will impact our district should things not change in the direction that they're going in Washington and Albany. So that would be something we're going to keep an eye on. As far as the budget process goes, the administration will review the needs of the staff, come to us in January with the draft budget, and we'll begin that process to get it in shape to present to the public. The final thing we did discuss was the budget advisory committee charge, and we came to a consensus that this year we would prefer that the budget advisory committee merge with the school forest. What is it?
The environmental education.
Outdoor.
Outdoor classroom committee task force, because frankly, that's where we probably would assign them had it not been already committee. So we were going to recommend that to Peter. He's not here, but I will send him an official note with that instruction. So, any questions?
Questions for me? Anyone else? All right. Thank you, Kent. The next item is revision and approval of the committee charges. We have modified these based on the discussion that we had a couple meetings ago about the definition of community member. So for any of the committees that have a community member position, we've just clarified that community member is a qualified voter of the district. And I don't think there are any other changes to these, correct? Everything else is the same. May be it resolved that the Board of Education for the Garrison Union Free School District hereby approves the revisions to the committee charges for the Audit Committee, Budget Advisory Committee, DEI Committee, Facilities Committee, and Planning Committee as presented. May I have a motion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Moving on to item 10A, first reading of policy 7350, timeout and physical restraints policy. Jen, you mentioned this in your minutes report, but is there anything else you want to say about this one?
No, I think it's just, been a long time coming, this was left over from 23-24.
Great. And as you said, this one has been reviewed by council.
And also by our clients.
Right, great. Any questions or discussion on this policy? Hearing none, we will move on, and this will be back on the agenda for our second reading next meeting? Next meeting. Okay, moving on to item 11. CSE, CPSE recommendations. Be resolved that the Board of Education of the Garrison Union Free School District approve the Committee on Special Education and Committee on Preschool Special Education recommendations and student placements. May I have a motion?
So,
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Moving on to item 12, the personnel items, consent agenda. Be resolved that the Board of Education of the Garrison Union Free School District, upon the recommendation of the superintendent, hereby approves the items of the personnel consent agenda as presented. May I have a motion?
So,
Greg, you want to speak to these?
Yeah, just briefly, I want to, as the board knows, we did appoint a teacher aide at previous board meeting. However, that person didn't start, so we were rescinding that appointment, but we are happy to report, thanks to the good work of Principal Hemick, we're happy to make the recommendation this evening for Kimberly Bischoff to take the teacher aide position in the district. I met with her personally. She's going to be a fantastic addition. She promised us she will not resign and she will start tomorrow if approved. So otherwise, I don't want to come back here and rescind another appointment. But these positions are hard to fill, and I am happy about the quality that we got and the excitement that Kimberly brings to it. So I just want to wholeheartedly recommend her this evening. And also mention that having a sub-nurse is also really critically important. And Reagan Knight has worked for us last year, and we're reappointing her as a sub, so we want to welcome back Reagan as well in this recommendation of the personnel agenda.
Thanks, Greg. Welcome to Kimberly and Brigham. We're excited to have them. And let's see, anything else? Any questions on any of the items in the consent agenda? We have a motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Thank you. Moving on to new business, item 13. Be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Garrison Union Free School District, upon the recommendation of the superintendent, does hereby approve the new business items as presented. We have a couple items here. I think one of them we've already talked about, which is the contract for the water heater replacement. And then anything else we need to discuss? Excess outdated math textbooks?
We're accessing outdated math textbooks.
Okay, great.
Does it add up?
I'll have to ask Mike, he's our mathematician. Mike, does it add up?
Yeah.
Good. Yes, it adds up.
Just wanted to be sure.
The budget transfer is for 2 items. That's for to correct the account code for one of our aides to reflect the right object code, and then the other one is the work that Acture is doing for us was originally built into the budget as a separate contract. It is a COSER through the Duchess BOCES. So this is putting the expenses under a BOCES related code.
Great. Any questions on any of these items? Should I call for a motion?
I just
May I have a
need to,
motion? Yeah.
since it's going, rather than
Different poses.
different.
Duchess BOCES.
Yeah.
You're good.
Okay.
May I have a motion?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Okay. We have our second public comment section here. I think we have no other new members of the public, so I'm gonna move past that and move into board member comments or other discussion. Jocelyn, you're first. Eric?
Just thanks to everybody who put together the G7 Movie Night and Fall Fest. Those were two really fun events. And thank you, Dusty, because I can't wait to parent to this later.
Jen?
I just want to congratulate Joe and Genevieve and the entire business office to have an audit report with the finding that they had is really exemplary, and I think this is 3 years running, so congratulations and thank you for being really good stewards of our funds.
She's not here now, but I couldn't do it without Genevieve. She makes life a lot easier for all of us. So.
Thanks, Jen. Nothing else from me. Kent? Okay. So we will, we have executive session. So be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Garrison Union Free School District hereby enters into executive session for the purpose of discussing collective bargaining negotiations with the GTA and SRP pursuant to Article 10 of the Civil Service Law. May I have a motion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? We will adjourn the meeting without any further